there exists a truth so profound, it upends everything you were told about love, desire, and the mysterious pull between two souls. What if I told you that everything you've ever done to impress a woman, every dollar earned, every muscle sculpted, every status symbol collected, could be the very thing pushing her away? What if the magnetic pull you crave isn't found in what you achieve, but in how deeply you've met yourself? In the silent spaces between ambition and affection, there is a tension, sacred and powerful. The Stoics taught us that our control begins and ends with the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But what if your thoughts are drenched in longing, in unspoken fear, in desperation masked as confidence? Imagine you walk into a room, your shirt is crisp, your watch gleams under the light, your posture rehearsed. You're polite, you smile, you listen. But something's missing. The air around you is still. There is no shift, no pulse, no gravitational pull. Women respond with manners, but not fire. They appreciate you, but they don't crave you. And you can't help but wonder why the man who lives in a cluttered apartment, wears beat-up sneakers, and barely cares about social status is the one she can't stop texting. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Desire isn't logical, obsession isn't earned, and attraction doesn't answer to effort. You were told to chase validation, to collect tokens of worth, like a game, money, body, charm, that if you stacked enough on your resume of desirability, women would fall. But they didn't tell you this. Women aren't addicted to your achievements. They're addicted to your energy, your groundedness, your ease in your own skin. The paradox. The more you need her to see you, the more invisible you become, Carl Jung said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Aren't you still that boy who was told not to cry, who learned to smile even when it hurt, who made ambition his armor? What are you really chasing when you walk into a room? Who are you trying to prove yourself to every time you over-explain, laugh too hard, boast subtly, or wait anxiously for her response? You surrender your center, and she can feel it. Not in her mind, but in her body. Women are emotionally attuned. They pick up on what you don't say. They're not reading your affisam fe, they're reading your silence. In her mind, a sorting begins, not based on your job title, but on your vibration. Are you above or below her energy? Not in arrogance, but in presence. If you seek her approval, you are beneath. If you hold your center, you rise above. And here, a sacred addiction begins. Addiction, contrary to what the world says, isn't about pleasure. It's about escape. Women become addicted not to what's pleasurable, but to what's rare. And the rarest quality today is a man who doesn't need anything from her. Not her body, her validation, or her praise. Just the moment. Just her presence. Just being. This man doesn't perform. He doesn't peacock. He doesn't manipulate. He simply is. Presence is the new luxury, and it is unteachable, except through suffering. It is forged not in clubs, but in quiet rooms where men confront their wounds, where they meet their inner boy, their unmet needs, their broken stories. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Adversity humbles you, and from that humility, presence is born. When you stop trying to control how others see you, you begin to control how you feel in any room. There's a certain gravity to the man who says less, but means more. His silence isn't emptiness, it's depth. His gaze doesn't seek confirmation, it sees, and when a woman stands before him, she feels not just looked at, but known. This is the birth of sacred tension, the space between who you are and who you could become. The friction between grounded masculinity and flowing femininity, and within that tension, women don't just fall, they surrender. But here's the twist. You can't fake it. Try to mimic it, and she'll know. You can't copy stillness. You must become it. You can't rehearse self-assurance. You must live it. Women are biologically wired to detect incongruence. If your lips say, "I don't need you," but your eyes plead for attention, she'll see through you. She'll retreat. To speak to her soul, you must quiet your ego, and in that space, something remarkable happens. She begins to wonder what you're not saying. She begins to imagine your mystery, not your muscle. She dreams of your attention, not your achievements, because real power is restraint. The man who has options but chooses intention. The man who feels desire but isn't enslaved by it. The man who can walk away, not in anger, but in peace. Can you say no? Not because you are playing a game, but because you are in tune with your truth. In a world where every man is trying to get something from her, be the one who doesn't need anything at all. Not because you're cold, but because you're whole. Women don't fall for perfection, they fall for polarity, the dance between the masculine and the feminine, between stillness and movement, between strength and sensitivity. You create that, not through lines, but through alignment. Ask yourself, are you chasing or attracting? Are you performing or being? Are you seducing or connecting? Because to attract deeply is not to perform loudly, but to embody quietly. Stillness is louder than noise, presence more captivating than words, self-assurance more erotic than charm. This is the shift, from trying to be the man she wants to being the man you respect. When you live by your own code, defined not by others' desires, but by your soul's compass, you become untouchable. Not because you're unreachable, but because you've arrived, and it is in this arrival that true magnetism is born. Because magnetism isn't crafted, it's uncovered beneath the layers of ambition, masks, and social performance. There lies a version of you unshaken by rejection, untouched by praise, and unmoved by performance. That version doesn't seek her attention. It holds space for her presence. He doesn't chase affection, he offers presence, and that offering, in its silent intensity, becomes unforgettable. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." But to know yourself, you must stop hiding behind what you've done, behind what you own, behind who you think you need to be, because no amount of external success will ever fill the ache created by internal avoidance. Have you ever truly asked, why do I want her attention so badly? Is it because she's extraordinary, or because her gaze makes me feel like I am? What does her interest validate that I haven't found within myself? And what happens if I stop needing her to reflect my worth back to me? Here is where the path forks. One road leads to the exhausting cycle of validation, performing endlessly for breadcrumbs of attention. The other leads to sacred solitude, to the inner temple where true confidence is born, confidence that doesn't need applause, that doesn't shatter under silence. Confidence rooted in being, not proving. The Stoics taught that the only true possession is self-mastery, and mastery begins with stillness, the ability to be with yourself without distraction, to walk into any space not looking to take, but simply to give your essence. Women feel this, not intellectually, but biologically. They lean into it, like warmth on a cold morning. It feels safe, unshakable, real. Imagine walking into a room, not needing to be noticed, and yet, not because of your status, but because your energy holds weight. People look, not because you demanded it, but because your silence commands it. This is sacred presence, rare, unteachable, unshakable. To develop this presence, you must stop outsourcing your power. Stop giving away pieces of your identity every time someone disapproves, every time you're ghosted, overlooked, or challenged. Let rejection sculpt you, not shrink you. Let it chip away the parts of you that still depend on being liked to feel enough. This is the gravity of stillness, the magnetic force of someone who's met his own shadow and stayed, who's been broken, rebuilt, and now stands not in armor, but in truth. So many men chase love with the same strategy they use to chase money: conquest, tactics, hustle. But love doesn't respond to force. It responds to frequency, to the unexplainable resonance of someone who isn't pretending. When you are no longer reacting to her approval, no longer adjusting to gain favor, no longer posturing for affection, something radical happens. You free her too. You release her from the burden of carrying your self-worth. And in that freedom, she can meet you not as a prize to win, but as a soul to dance with. That's where sacred tension is born, the subtle electricity between two whole people, drawn not by need, but by resonance. Not because you complete her, but because you don't need to. The irony: the less you seek to impress, the more impactful you become. The less you try to be memorable, the more unforgettable your energy becomes. Because in a world where everyone is performing, the one who's simply present becomes divine. The path isn't easy. It requires confronting the false self, the one built on validation, control, and fear. But each time you choose groundedness over reaction, presence over performance, self-respect over desperation, you align closer with your essence. Woman, crave connection, not control; depth, not demonstration. And the man who creates that, not through words, but through state of being, becomes the addiction she never saw coming. Because the rarest high in this world is feeling seen by someone who doesn't need you. And the most sacred addiction is to the presence of someone whose value isn't for sale. Let the world chase applause. Let others market themselves for affection. You return to your center. Build a temple there. Fill it with self-respect, stillness, sovereignty. And when you walk out into the world, you won't need to seduce her. Your presence will.